Sarvangasana is one of the most beautiful postures in a yoga practice for the effects that we have from it, which are really a powerful impact on the parasympathetic nervous system in creating a lot of relaxation in the mind, specifically because of the pressure on the back of the head and the impact on the vagus nerve and vagal tone, as well as all the benefits that we get from inversions. So we don't want to lose this pose in our practice. It's a very important posture. But the neck does have to be considered, because when we do Sarvangasana, shoulder stand, and when we do halasana, which is plow pose, those are two postures that create a flattening, a stretch on the neck, but also a flattening of the cervical curve. So for people who generally have a flat neck or a reversed cervical curve, it's also known as a military neck. For people who have these conditions, and there are many, especially because a lot of us are spending hours on the computer or hours looking down at a telephone, which flattens out the cervical curve. For people like that, it's important to use props. Without the use of props, we really can't ensure the safety of the cervical curve. We can't maintain the cervical curve in a healthy way. From my experience as a yoga teacher for over 20 years, I've seen a few people accomplish Sarvangasana and Halasana with the ability to maintain a natural curve, or at least a little bit of a curve in the neck. But I would say that 99% of people need to use props. And so I don't teach this pose without the use of props. Now, my recommendation is to use a minimum of 2 blankets. That's if you don't have any neck issues. In this video, we're going to demonstrate doing the posture with 4 blankets, because if you have neck pain or a decreased cervical curve, you want to use at least 4, sometimes 5 blankets to maintain the curve in the neck. We also have a chair, and the reason I have a chair is that that is a great way to support the legs in the pose in Halasana. It's important that we maintain space for the throat, space for the neck, for the breath, and also length throughout the lumbar spine when we're in Halasana. And sometimes bringing the feet to the ground will make it difficult to maintain all of those things. So this is a great option, especially for beginners or people with any neck problems. In addition, we have a bolster, and this helps to support the buttocks so that you don't have to swing your legs heavily over to get into Halasana, which actually puts a lot of pressure on the neck. So all of these props really help for a specific purpose. The final prop, I guess we're using all of our props for this one, but it's a strap, and we're gonna have the strap about shoulder distance, and this is to keep the elbows in place so that the chest stays open. If our chest collapses in Sarvangasana and our chest falls in, then basically there's a lot of pressure on the head and neck, and we're not in the pose correctly. So if we don't keep the chest open and the spine in a nice 90-degree angle, then we're really not in the posture, and we're not getting the benefits of the posture. So it's worth it, in my opinion, to take the time to do this correctly. Yes, we do have to interrupt our practice and go get blankets and a bolster, but once we're in the right position, we have the freedom to stay there and maintain space in the throat, in the neck, and in the low back. And we can hold this pose for much longer safely, for about 5 minutes or so. And we can get much more benefit if we do it in this way. So I'm going to demonstrate the way that I recommend teaching and practicing shoulder stand, the way I do it for myself with my reverse cervical curve. And I hope that you try it at home and enjoy. One final note, you do not want to have a ponytail. You want to take your hair down, and this is for the women or the men who have long hair. If you put pressure on the ponytail, it can push the neck forward as well. So I always take my ponytail out for this pose. So let's go in. What we want to make sure is that the shoulders will stay on the blanket, that your shoulders do not roll off of the blanket when you do this pose. If your shoulders come off, you've lost the pose. You need to come out and reposition yourself. In addition, I want you to find your C7 vertebrae. So what you're going to do is take your hand and place it on the back of the neck, and you'll feel one bone sticking out the most. Okay, there are two bones that actually stick out. The first one that sticks out is C7. This is your 7th cervical vertebrae. The one below it is T1, the first thoracic vertebrae. So this isn't everyone. This is a normal bump, right? The spinous process of the cervical vertebrae sticks out a little more. So find that bump. This bump is going to stay on the blanket. The rest of the head will be off the blanket. So very important to maintain C7 on the blanket as well as the shoulders throughout this pose. So I'm going to go into it now, placing the buttocks on the bolster. And this, again, helps lift my buttocks so my whole spine is in the same alignment. Otherwise, I'm in a slight back bend, and then I have to really swing my legs to get overhead, and that's not good for the pressure on my head and neck. So I'm going to lie on my back and making sure my C7 is supported on the blanket, but you can see my head is dipping back quite a bit, and that's okay because when I come into the pose, it's going to straighten out, but I want to maintain my cervical curve. So this is okay. Shoulders are on, C7 is on. Now I take the strap around one hand, not both, just one. And what I'm going to do is gently lift my legs overhead into halasana. So my chair is here, which is wonderful because I don't have to reach the floor. I can keep my feet on the chair and my legs working. Okay? Now roll one shoulder underneath and the other shoulder underneath. So I get more opening in the chest. And then I can hook my hands through the strap. So roll the shoulders, hook the hands underneath. The strap is around the wrists. I'm reaching, opening the shoulders. And now I don't want my legs relaxed because then my low back will round. So I want to energize my legs. And now my low back is nice and open. My throat is nice and open, my forehead relaxed, and I can breathe here. So this is the first part. Then I can take the strap around the elbows and really hook my hands on my skin. I do want my shirt to fall down because I actually want to hook my hands on the skin so there's no slipping. And then I take my legs up one at a time. Now what we want is to get the hands as low as you can towards the floor. That way you can have a straight line from your ankle to your hip to your shoulder. And then you can come back down. Roll the shoulders open. Take the strap off. Now look back when you come out so that the head doesn't pop up into flexion. So you're going to look back and slowly lower down, one vertebrae at a time. So my head stays back in a nice curve. And then bring the feet to the floor. You'll roll off of the blanket. Get the shoulders onto the ground. So now we're in a nice chest opener. I can cross my legs here on the bolster and hold here for a few minutes. And then when I'm ready to come out, I just roll to the side and come up. And the feeling that I want to have after I do this pose is a sense of relaxation, sense of softness in my throat, in my neck, openness in my chest, and relaxation in my mind.